Good morning everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing some more work on my little pouch, my little fabric pouch. The prompt for January for the Roxy Creations Journal of Stitchery, volume 5. Can you believe we're up to volume 5? Okay, what I'm thinking of doing today is actually putting the pouch together. So let me just come up a little bit. Okay, I've got my piece of fabric. That's my flap up, my flap down. So when it opens, I want the fabric facing me like that. Now my fabric's a little bit bigger, but that's okay because once you start stitching, things sort of cinch in a little bit, so it doesn't hurt to have it a little bit bigger. And I'm going for the rough, ragged edge. I'm positive I'm not going to bind it now. I just love the way it sort of has finished. The girls will be showing you a binding that goes on the end. So, yeah, I think I'm going to do this. Now, I also, because this pouch potentially will open and lay open so that I can sort of retrieve bits and pieces from it because of the concertina. Let me show you the concertina inside. I can't decide yet if I will be attaching this bit to there because I really like the idea of having this flap lay on the bench with some pins and things like that in it, like a bit of a sewing storage space. I was thinking it was going to be up here, but I think my flap is too narrow. I could definitely get a piece of felt there for a couple pins. If this got secured, that probably would, you know, still work. But I just sort of think I could do a little bit more on this flap. But anyway, I'm not going to make that decision yet until I get there. But I do want this fabric to be as taut as possible. When things fold, especially fabric, you tend to get some creases. So to eliminate that, I'm not going to just pin it completely. I'm going to work my way gradually along the piece. Well, I guess I will pin it completely, but what I'm saying is as I stitch, I'm going to keep repinning and repositioning because I want this fabric, if anything, to pull everything towards me. I'll show you what I mean. So I'm really putting a bit of pressure on this here. And then once I start to stitch this piece to the decorative front, I'll probably stitch so far and then I could even twist that up a bit. See how you get this fold, this bulk? I might even, yeah, I know that's what I'll do. If I curve that, once this is, say, the stitch, this first bit, that's the first flap. It's this little zone through here. If this curves and that curves and this gets pulled into the curve a little and then continue stitching, I'll show you. There we go. This is sort of pulling up just a fraction. It's ever so slight, but it will help take a little bit of the bulk out of here. It's ever so slight, but I've pushed it up, pulled this fabric along a little bit just to get a little bit of tension. It'll ease back down, but I think it'll be just enough, that little kick up there, to sort of take a bit of that bulk out. If it was flat and everything laid flat, when that turns up, you get bulk in here. I would have to do heaps and heaps of stitches to eliminate that. And as much as I want to stitch, I don't want to do too many through here, I don't think. I don't. I'm going to start with just like a invisible stitch, tacking it all down. And then I'm going to do a running stitch right around the perimeter. That's more just to seal the sides in. So I'm just threading up a needle here. But a little invisible stitch through the whole zone will give me that little dimple look, the little quilted dimple look. Doesn't even have to be too invisible. It could be I feel like I need to give myself a bit more fabric. Do I? No, that's okay. So it's a case of catching all the layers. Now I will definitely stop the video and not bore you with all this. But let's get it started. Just to secure that corner, I'm going to go right through to the opposite side and then come back through. Nice therapeutic stitching here. I've got a few layers there, so I should be able to slither through all of those layers. I'm going to do like a little back stitch and then through I go. Just small. It'll give it a nice little dimple. Keep my stitches as straight as possible. You could do a camphor stitch or, you know, a running stitch, rows and rows running stitch. I did consider it, but I really like my fabric and I don't want to distort the flowers. So I'm just opted out for just a tiny little back stitch, slithering through the layers and trying not to come forward. I shouldn't be able to come, I shouldn't make it through to this side. So there, I just did. Look at that. Just as I was about to speak. I believe that I can do it without, because what's helping me is there's so many fabrics on that layered side. So it'll really go a long way. Plus I put some wadding in there at the 12th hour. I'm glad I did. It feels beautiful to hand. And this stage would have been really tricky if I didn't have that piece of pellin in there, wadding. I'm getting a few questions on where I get those types of products. I have been buying them for years to go inside quilts. So I will say a quilt shop, a quilt fabric shop. Any good fabric shop has the internals of wadding, pellin. You can get bamboo, cotton, wool. Depending on where you live, you might find that you've got quite heavy ones, heavy waddings versus lightweight ones. Like here in Queensland, there's a lot of lightweight options due to our quilts not needing to be as heavy due to our climate. But lately, I have been using a felt. Now, it's by the meter and it's from a company called Spotlight. I go for the soft, creamy one. There's a few in the colour range. It's in the fabric section, Aussie Girls. It's not over where the upholsteries are. It's in the fabric section of their store. Oh, see, I can see my little stitches there. Is that? Doesn't matter. It's all part of the charm, isn't it? So I'm just going to end that off now. Yeah, so I've been really enjoying that. It's nice and dense, so I can really dig into it with pins, needles, knots. And it gives a lovely feeling under my hand. This is a felt here. I couldn't get cream one day, so I had to get a couple meters of white. That's the last little bit of it, I believe. So that's my probably preferred internals, if you will, for want of a better word. There's quite a few out on the market. I'm not a big fan of iron-on products, you know, where there's a bit of glue involved. I just find that my fingers, they work pretty hard for me in the needlework. And the last thing I need is just that little bit extra resistance. And often those glues that come with those products, once you start applying heat, it's just more work on my joints that I don't think I need. And I do like that messy, rusticy sort of look. So having frayed edges doesn't really worry me. That's another product you might see when you go to buy your wadding. They use it for appliquing fabrics onto surfaces. So it gives you a nice edge. I was using heaps of it back in the day when I was doing quilts with a lot of applique on them and then embroidering into that. And it was sort of the go-to product. Oh, I've just gone off on a tangent in my mind. I've been thinking about another project, something that's a bit long-term, but I'm a bit fearful that it'll become too long-term and it starts to become a bit of a burden. You know, these English paper piecing projects people do. You can't even see them on camera here. English paper piecing projects where it takes however long to do all of the little hexagons. I'm so tempted, but I just think, I don't want a quilt that's got that style. B, I do want to do some English paper piecing. C, I probably don't want to do some English paper piecing. So this is all going through my head at the moment. And then the other day, someone gave a tour of their craft room. I think it was, it's K3M. She does a lot of boro stitching and eco-dyed fabrics, and oh, I love her work. It's not anything that I'd probably go into myself, but I do enjoy just watching something completely different to what I do. And she's just got such a gentle way about her. She's really, really good. She's only new to YouTube. Well, she did a tour of her studio, and she had on the wall a log cabin quilt, and it was just, oh, I'm a bit of a fan of log cabin. It's simple, it uses up a lot of scraps. You can piecework it, so you can just do as much or as little as you like. And she's working in neutral blues and reds, oh, favourite colours. And she's doing it in sections, and then once she sort of gets some pieces together, she starts the hand sewing side of things. And oh gosh, I was so inspired. I'm trying not to react to it straight away, like as in start the project immediately. I like it to simmer a little bit, and then that helps me just slow it down, girl. Do you need another project? Are you really that in love with it? You know, all of those things. So it's best, I've learnt over the years, just to maybe give it a week to percolate before I go and jump in boots and all. It was hanging on the wall in her studio, and oh my goodness, guys, just beautiful. She did make a comment that she will show it to great detail in a future video, so I might even just hang loose until I see that. But I did a log cabin square, hand sewn, with Susanna's project last year, Vintage Sewing Techniques. It was just one page. I've never done it by hand. And oh boy, it was so fun. And I thought, well, that's right up my alley, because I don't really want to sit on a sewing machine and rip through it. I'll have it done in a weekend, like the construction of it. I know what I'm like. Once I get in, boots and all. So I want something that's just simple to put in a project bag and pick up every so often. But then the old, do you really want that, Corrine? It's another thing hanging around your head. I don't know. I seem to be thinking about it a lot. Then the whole, what colour are you going to do? What fabrics are you going to use? So it just, it becomes a palaver, doesn't it? So that's what's percolating. Maybe when I go to Melbourne in March to Susanna's, oh, I can't wait. I'm going for 10 days. Off to Melbourne to hang with Susanna. Oh, the whoop up we are going to be doing. And then in amongst that is the retreat that Susanna's hosting. Oh, can't wait. Can't wait. We're just going to have so much fun. Scones. There'll be scones with jam and cream. Anyway, I'm sidetracked. I think she's got a couple seats left too. So if anyone's considering it and maybe had forgotten about it, time is a-ticking. March is coming real quick, so if you're out there and you're thinking about it, reach out to Susanna on Vintage Blend Studio. I think on her website you can go and actually purchase your deposit ticket. And then, yeah, March will be here before we know it. So maybe... And I'm going to Gail's Patchwork, which is like famous. I can't wait. Maybe I go to see, here we go. Okay, back it up a bit. When I go shopping like that, and fabric is the topic, I try and focus on a colour or a theme, and that stops me buying stuff that I don't need. I try think of, like narrow it down a little bit. Like when I went to France, I thought, okay, I can't just buy willy-nilly every piece of fabric I see. It'll get out of hand. So I went shopping with a clear colour palette, which was these reds. And if I saw any blue, I could be tempted. And I think I come back with one piece of blue, and that was it. So it was neutral, these fawny tones, and red, pretty much this. And it was great because it helped me to quickly, because we had limited time at different shopping venues, it helped me to quickly scoot through piles and piles of fabric because my eyes were scanning just for this colour palette. So I guess what I could do is when I get down to Melbourne in March, I think about my log cabin quilt, which is going to be hand stitched and then embellished with stitching, just running stitch and maybe a bit of floral stitching from Jennifer Clouston's World. I just feel like I would enjoy that more so than English paper piecing. I just don't know about those hexagons. I think I'd go a bit stir crazy, going round and round and round in circles. This flower here would be so pretty stitched. But it depends if I attached this flap to that concertina. I'll finish this row because otherwise I'll be here for an hour yibby-yabbering doing the one thing, and I really want to move this project along because the month of January is chugging along, isn't it? So yeah, there's the project. It's percolating. It's that long term. See, then I'd have to create a bag for it. You know, so that it's all together and you can pick it up and go out the door. Not that I get to go out the door much. It's usually hanging around home. So, okay, a project bag that allows you to take it to the couch and back, and everything's in there. And the project bag would have to match the quilt. But then, you know, do I need a quilt? No. Do I need a throw blanket over the knee? Yeah. Do I need another wall hanging? No. Do I make the bag and that's enough and I'll be over it by then and it'll be out of my system and I'll have a nice log cabin bag? Probably. Oh, goodness me. It is fun thinking about it all, but even if it doesn't come to fruition, I've got to have some fabric come my way. I have plenty of fabric already, but you know how it goes. There might be something better around the corner. All right, so that is coming together beautifully. Really, really nice. You can see, I don't think you can see all the dimples? If I keep my line straight, I'll get these little cute dimples right across the piece. And once again, I'll just keep turning that up, pushing that fabric forward, reposition the pin. You'd be surprised how much bulk comes out of it as it sits nicely then, and it has a bit of a curve about it. Okay, so I'm going to leave the end open because I'm still thinking about the closure. I have an idea, but I'm pre-recording this before I know what Sarah and Rachel are doing for their closure. So I just want to see what the girls do because it might be something similar. I don't know. And the thing I want to use is not here in this craft room. I just went through all of my bits and bobs behind me and it's been packed up and gone because I didn't think I'd need them. So I need to also sort that out. Now this little guy, he is going to be stitched in as well. So as soon as I finish this, I'll come back and we will stitch down here, attaching this concertina pocket system to my flip. Okay, I think I will pause it. I will be back in a few seconds once I get myself through this stitching process. Okay, guys. Okay, I'm back. So I sat here for about an hour and a half stitching away and thinking and watching YouTube videos, catching up with everyone's daily videos, and I finished stitching all of that down. Really happy with it. You see the little dimple that it's given it? It's just, and it feels so beautiful. I then did the running stitch around the perimeter. I decided to stay on this side because if I went on this side, it would interfere with some of the stitching that I've done already. So wherever there wasn't stitching, like here, I popped up. But then this was already pre-stitched with a running stitch. So my piece on the back doesn't come through. So it's sort of like, I guess, faking the look. Does that make sense? Then what did I do? Then my dad rang and we chatted for about half an hour about his shenanigans for the week and his encounter with a snake. I'll tell you about that in a moment, but I need to sort of stitch and think about the story. And I want to bring you up to speed on a couple of things that I've done here first. Okay, then while I was chatting to Dad, I started thinking about this end. I ended up trimming off just a little bit of the fabric. Remember I had this, it was a little bit longer, so that came off. So that little strip is now a little treasure somewhere. And I found some lace that came from France, and I've stitched it on the back. I was going to put it between the layers and sandwich it, and I thought, no, we want to see it. So it's laying here just slip stitched on. Plus I went around that final side with my running stitch. So I've gone around the whole perimeter with running stitch, hiding it from the front, and then I've stitched on this little piece of lace. I then looked at this side, and because the fabric from behind this here is seen along this edge, and it sort of really is quite predominant, and then it is thin here because it was a bit warpy when I ripped it. It didn't rip straight. So I thought, well, I don't want to cut it because I lose that furry edge, and I like the layers because it sort of shows the construction. I thought to disguise the fact, the other thing I noticed too while I was chatting then is I don't have a running stitch here. So that one could have come through. So we'll have to fix that. But see how the fabric is poking out from behind? So I thought, well, what can I do to make that look like it's meant to be? I thought, oh, I'll cut some lace in. So while I had my container of French treasures, I cut off a little piece of that one, and I put a little piece of that one. So now it sort of feels like the border is part of the front piece as well and not hanging out from the back. Does that make sense? It makes sense to me. Yeah, it was just something I was looking at while I was chatting to Dad, and I thought, that just needs a little something. So I'm going to stitch this down next, but I better get a line of running stitch in behind that little morsel of lace. So yeah, Dad had a big week. He had to get his car serviced in the next biggest town. He then was told he needed to get a new set of tyres for the car. So in the same town, considering we're in country towns, they do well. They've got just about everything they need, and if they did need to go to the next major town, that's 20 minutes away. But yeah, he got tyres. They got them overnight from Brisbane up, fitted them on the car, so all that took place. He had a walk around town while he waited for the service on the car, and just slipping that through. Service on the car, and then the next day again getting tyres fitted. So he was bumping into all sorts of characters and saying g'day, and he seemed to really enjoy that social 2 days off the farm, just socially chatting. It was really, you could just tell his soul was charged. He'd had a good week. And then he went to the tractor manufacturer, supplier, not manufacturer. If you want to buy a tractor and you need parts, those people are in town. So they had a problem with their tractor. This is my brother and father. Pre-Christmas, there was a fire in the tractor. So whether some grass, which is pretty common, tractors can smoulder due to the heat, and if there's a little bit of grass caught up in the tractor, it can, turn into a fire pretty easily. Never had that happen, considering the amount of tractor work and dry country that they often work. But anyway, they'd been ploughing all day, sort of getting the farm into a rest stage, sort of in the heat of summer. They don't plant a lot. Where'd that little scrappy bit of lace get to? What did I just do with it? There it is. So now I'm going to just insert that there. See, I'm happier now. I've got a little line of running stitch through. So they had been ploughing for about 2-3 weeks straight, leading up to Christmas, 2 weeks before Christmas. All the vegetables were finished for the season. plough the paddocks, let them rest for nearly 2 months. You pray you get some summer rain, which they did, gets that moisture in. They plough that same paddock, 2 or 3 times, and it gets it real soft, ready for planting. Anyway, the plan was then to, plant pumpkins and start putting in broccoli, cauliflower, all of those winter crops that'll start coming on in a few months. And they went home for smoko, and a visitor popped in, and my brother had been out with that visitor for the day, and Dad had been ploughing, and Mark just happened to look across the farm to see, what had been going on for those few hours he was out and about. And he sees smoke coming from the tractor, just a gentle smouldering little, not flames or anything. So he's like, Dad, the tractor's on fire. So my brother hightails it across the creek and starts grabbing water and throwing it on the tractor and puts it out. So whatever happened, we don't know. Where the 2 wires bumped together, that we worked out the tractor's 25 years old, but that's not an issue. Tractors can go a long time. So it could be some wiring touched, sparked, threw a little spark into some built up grass. You just don't know. It is a bit of a thing. Apparently, I didn't know tractors can burn to the ground. Tractors can start fires in farms. Suddenly your paddock's on fire, and it's because of the heat from something smouldering within the tractor. So anyway, my brother's attempted to fix what he can, but it's got to the point where he needs all these special little couplings and connectors for hydraulics and all sorts of things. He's done a few bits and bobs, like he put a new battery into it, new alternator. My brother's not a mechanic. He's just interested in those things. So they ended up going through to the next town and having a chat to this tractor servicing sales company. Anyway, a young fella came out, took a heap of photos, wrote a heap of notes about a week before Christmas. And the boys were sweating on it all Christmas. All they kept saying was, I wonder when we'll get our tractor. And I was trying to explain to them that everyone closes down over Christmas, so it'll take a bit to get it sorted. So while he was waiting for his car to be serviced and the tyres to be put on, he dropped into those guys as well and sort of said, how's it going? When are you coming? And they said, yep, you're on the list. He said, we're just waiting on a couple more parts to come in, but we've pretty much got it all. And by Tuesday, they will be out to the farm to rewire what they need to, re-hose what they need to, and she's up and running. But I must admit, it was scary there for a bit because, how much damage there was. Possibly could be a new tractor, not worth saving. Thank goodness, because the boys straight away, boys and their toys, straight away they went to a second-hand machinery dealer that's in another area in the next town over, that they often pick up bits of equipment from over the years and the random tractors. And they ring me and they're like, we need to have a chat to you about a new tractor. And I'm like, a new tractor? Seriously? Can't we get the burnt tractor fixed? It's chewing into, valuable money that Dad's going to need for his later years. Like all of, what is he now, 76 in Feb. So, and he's still considering buying tractors, and oh goodness, I tell you that once a farmer, always a farmer, and it's very hard for farmers to stop, I believe. So anyway, the pair of them are on the phone. We could get this new tractor. We've seen it in this town and it's good value and, it drives real well. And I'm like, oh my goodness, can't we just semi-retire? And they've already got a smaller tractor, but it's a second one, but it's not, it can just plough the paddocks. The big offset with the big discs, it's pretty heavy, and the one that's burnt out is a big tractor. So it was always used when they were doing hay, and you know, it's a big girl, so they would miss it. And the little girl, they could use it. It's the big Ford and the little Ford, different models. They probably would end up doing damage to the little Ford because it's probably not rated technically for the big plough. And there's a big wagon that Dad uses as well that puts his pumpkins on and takes them up to the shed, and they lay out on this huge wagon. It was his father's wagon. And it just allows the air to circulate, and it's just a great place to store, you know, a couple thousand ton of, no, that's the wrong words, a couple thousand, quite a few ton of pumpkins. I must find oh, look, I've got this fantastic photo of all the pumpkins on that wagon, and I'll put it at the end of the video. It's just, oh. So he's madly planting his pumpkins. Gameri's quite famous for the Gameri Pumpkin Festival, and he supplies the pumpkins. There's only one year that he didn't. There was something happened. I think it was hail. Something happened and they all got damaged, so they had to get some sent up from Brisbane from the big markets for the Pumpkin Festival. So they sell a heap in all of the businesses to raise money for the town, and then the big roll it down the hill routine goes on where they get these pumpkins. The tourists buy a pumpkin and they stand at the top of the policeman's hill, and in waves of pumpkins come down the hill, and then they remove the barriers that stop you getting hit by a pumpkin all the way down this hill, and everyone races out, picks up these beaten up, busted up pumpkins and take them home to make soup. It's just hilarious. So, yeah, he's busy planting his pumpkins, and he's really sweating on that tractor, being ready. In a few months' time, he'll be harvesting pumpkins. It's usually around March, April. Pumpkin Festival's end of May, and they're always out and on the wagon by then. So it's been fun. It's fun listening to their adventures. I tell you, I feel like I'm so far away when I'm in the city. But when you've got people within your circle of family or friends that are farming, it's just, it's like another world. Anyway, snakes, bloomin' snakes. He has a lot of red belly blacks and the eastern browns. And good old carpet snake here and there. So there's always something going on. Well, they went to the pump house, and it's like a little garden shed that houses the pump. And whenever things are, you know, a bit dry in all the tanks, he can switch that pump on and it'll bring it up to the tanks from out of the creek, refill, or he runs irrigation. And he's been doing a bit of irrigating just to make sure that all these seeds he's planting, or little plants he's planting, get a little drink of water. So he goes over to the pump shed to turn on the pump to start the sprays, and there's a bloomin' snake in there. He believes it was a brown snake, and he was curled up the side of the shed, or moving up the side of the shed. I couldn't quite work out, but he was at a height. So Dad's walked into this, I don't know, 2 metre by 2 metre little tin shed thing that's over the top of the pump to switch it on. Snakey gets a fright. So he's slithering around above Dad's head or over his shoulder. I don't know. It just sounded like a circus. So Dad's like turned on the pump and then got out of there. So then the pump has started, and it's got a big belt that wraps around, probably about that wide and probably 1.5 feet. And Snakey's then lost traction. He's dropped down onto the belt, which has ricocheted him across the room of the shed, which really just stirs him up even more. So Dad's like outside the shed by now, trying to work out how he's going to get the snake out of the shed so Snakey can go on his way. So, yeah, it was funny listening to the palaver that went on because the pump's in there, the belt's flipping around, the snake's flipping around. Snake's getting very upset. So he managed to keep the door open, managed to keep his nose in around the corner of the door to see where Snakey was at all times. And, yeah, the snakes managed to find his way out of that little shed, thank goodness, and shot off down the creek bank, down into the long grass down near the creek to the side of the pump. So Dad said his heart rate was pumping. I've got a knot there. As you would imagine, a small space with a deadly snake gets the adrenaline running a little bit. Like they're up there in the list of nasties. We've got quite a few in this country. So usually you don't have an issue, but if you're in a small space and they get a little bit worried that they're in trouble, well, then they're going to come out defending themselves. So I was telling Dad that on the news was a lady out near Toowoomba who got bitten on the hand in the middle of the night in her bed by a brown snake. The bloomin' bugger was in amongst the pillows and they had a photo of it. Oh my goodness, there's like that much of the head of the snake sticking out between two pillows at the top of her bed. So she got air vac. Thank goodness she woke up to it. I don't know the details. I'm assuming she's woken up due to the fact that she's been bitten. Ouch. And then they've got the ambulance out from Toowoomba. She was on a property west of Toowoomba. And then the chopper has come out and taken her to the actual hospital to get the anti-venin, I think the word is. And she's okay. So, yeah, they're around. There's a lot around at the moment. It's just that time of the year. So I'm just quickly attempting to stitch this down. I might be able to leave it because I don't think it's in my way for the thing I really want to do, and that's stitch the concertina pockets in. So I might just end that off. It's secure anyway, and I can do that in my own time. I don't need to bore you with and let's get on to these pockets. I might remove that pin because you know I'm going to grab it as I wrestle this into position and I'll get jabbed. Oh, that was the other thing I did. Remember this little piece? It was sitting here in my needle pincushion while I was chatting to Dad. And I'm like, oh, I'll pop you on there. So that's going to get stitched. All right, let's do it. So I want the front to be generous to the point that our little concertina piece is well and truly covered. All right, it can peek out a little bit, but I really want it nestled in there nicely. That's it. So and I want the top to turn down, but also to have a bit of a gap because I'm wanting to put tabs on. Okay, that will work. So let's just sneak our hands in here. That's the back. Let's put a pin here and here. Is that the middle? Just doing it by eye. So we want to do some invisible stitches like we did when we joined them together here. We've got them just being caught. I want to do the same here for this. So let's do that. So I think we've got about 20 minutes left. So get it started. So it's very exciting. We're now putting the pockets in. I might come up down the bottom here. Get myself a little grab of fabric there. Oh, not. Just give it a little tug and make sure it's in, and then poke it through. It's a bit fiddly, but it should work. There we go. There we are. So now I need to really make sure it's secure. So I've gone right through to the front, and then I'm going to slither through the layers a little bit to advance myself. Then once again, right through to the front. That's well positioned. Right through to the back, and then slither forward. Just a couple mil right through. You really want it to hold, and I'll work my way all the way up to the top. Does that make sense? It's about the best way I've come up with to do it. So get that stitch right through first, up and down, then advance yourself forward. And then once again, right through, tiny little stitch. Now it's come undone. Once this seam is done, or this position is stitched in, gosh, I hope it's in the middle. A bit crooked. That's better. Once this seam is done, I can then stitch this little pocket together at the side seams. I was going to do that right at the very beginning, remember, and I thought, no, hang on a minute, how would I ever get my hand in here to do this if these side seams had been closed off? Thank goodness I thought of that, because that could have been quite a revolution about now. And the side seams, I will do the same thing, just slither through and then straight through. And then back very close to where I come up, and then advance. It's not as straight as I wanted it. It's a little bit, if it's a bit out, I might end up unpicking this. Why have I gone so crooked? I should have drawn myself a line. It might be okay, but it's a little bit, wonky. It's because I'm telling snake stories, is it? Oh, goodness me. I apologise to anyone who's got a phobia of snakes. You probably would have unsubscribed by now. The stories that I come out with. You would have gone, no, this girl's too much. Alrighty, we're right at the top now. God, it's so wonky. If it's noticeable that my wonkiness has been applied, I will unpick it. If it's not noticeable, and you guys are the only ones that know that I did a very wonky installation stitch, don't tell anyone. Oh, it's not too bad. It looked worse from where I was, but yeah, it's not real good. So let's assume that now the side pockets are stitched together. You see that? So let me get a pin, and it'll be the same thing, same sort of stitch. Now I did contemplate right back at the beginning, and I think my model, my paper model that I did concertina sides on it just to give a little bit extra. Not going to do it. That's just bulk I don't need. The width of these pockets is really generous for my hand to fit in comfortably. And I think that was probably more of the concern than anything, that I couldn't get my big mitt in there to make it useful. If it was a bit small, it'd be obnoxious. So when I stitch this edge together, I'll stay as close as I can to the edge, little invisible stitches, and that still gives me a really nice pocket to get my hand in. So I'm happy with that. I don't need concertina edges. If it was a bit more narrow, yeah, probably would, because it'd have to really open up, especially if it was, you know, that wide. You could then open it up easily. So that will be stitched. Now this guy, he will be stitched as well, closed, and here's the decision. Are we going to attach it there? Gosh, that could just be a needle book in itself, couldn't it? A little flap and it comes down and you put all your needles in here. Oh, gosh. Things you could do with just a pouch. Right, make a decision, girl. Let's pretend that this is stitched closed and it's not attached. I love seeing this. That then is freewheeling, gives us this surface, and then you open up that. Okay, so let's pretend we've got a little project sitting in here, whatever that may be. We'll use this lace. So there's our little stitching project. Here's the cotton. Maybe cotton, that's probably more realistic. A bit more bits and pieces. So our pockets are now full. And we're sitting this on our desk and we're taking things from it, snippets of lace and fabric. Do we want that attached? Pretty, isn't it? Or do we want that free so that we can utilize this? Now, if we were to utilize this, what would we be utilizing it for? I would like to see here a little pair of scissors. A little needle book. Where's some felt? How are we going for time? I'm just rummaging. Got some beautiful scrappy bits left of this. It's quilting batting. It's just so beautiful. It's got a seed through it. It's just gorgeous in itself. I could see a piece of that. It's a shame to cover that flower, but I thought that might happen. We could put a little pleat in it, so maybe a I've seen this done before where they put a pleat. I'm not convinced yet we're going to do this, but let's just have a fiddle. Straight cutting, not really. You do a little pleat, and that allows something for your needle and pins to dig into. Sort of thickens it up where all your sharp bits might be. It's not even a sharp pin. Pretty bad when the pin doesn't even penetrate the bloomin' wadding. Probably one of the softest things we have. I shouldn't have put it back in. It needs to go in the bin. Okay. So there's our little pleat for the bottom. Then we do how do they do it? Do they do a pleat at the top as well? It is adding bulk, but you know, hopefully this thing will close. If it doesn't close, I might have to get rid of this pleat idea. So you stitch all that down. And then you stitch it down. I think I might want to put it away from that flower for a start. You stitch it down, and then the needle and pins bury themselves in all those layers, and it just gives you that little bit extra protection. I guess the question is, if that goes there and say the scissors go here with a little strap of lace or cordage, what have I got in my little tricks? I wonder if I could do something with that. Just to catch the scissors, protect that sharp bit. That's pretty cute. Put a button through here. Let's pin it and pretend the scissors are going to be there. Because this is all thickness, my concern is that my flap at the top to close it might be really struggling. Because I just keep adding, don't we? Gosh, you could do so much. If you've got plenty of room because you haven't done this, I have a feeling this will be too bulky and I'll end up getting rid of those pleats. Oh, look at that, seriously. Talk about getting the most out of your pins and needles. All right, so that's now in position. This is in position, but we need to not lose it. It's going to flip out. There'll be a button or a press stud put here with a little piece of ribbon. I've done it heaps of times before, which will stop it from sliding out. Now, that closes. Oh, it works. It works. So we've got plenty of goodies in there. We'll undo the fastening, and that can even go up a little bit because I did allow for it to be above that little patch with my initials on it. The fastening will go here, or yeah, opens up. I still could put something there, but I don't think I need to. This opens down, and here's all my tools. And then here's my concertina full of my project. Now the other thing I wanted to have a play with, have we got time? Yes, we just have 5 minutes, is I need a scrap of fabric. Let's have a look at this. A little bit of calico. Is I wanted to make some tabs for the tops of my concertinas. About that just all guessing. Measurements are very often utilised. I thought this might look really cute. You do this in the paper world, little tabs. Gives you something to pull back on. So if that goes there, like so. And then that gives you, if you're right-handed, I'd put it right there. If you're left-handed, go that side. And that just directs the eye. I might just move it over a fraction. Directs the eye to something to lift it back. In my planning, I thought there would be another tab, but I don't think I need it. I think I just need that one little tab. Just to, you know, bit of fun. Yep, I think we've got a plan. I'm still thinking about this, guys. I'm not going to stitch this down. I'll come back in my next video once I put a bit of thought. I love that for my scissors. Not convinced of this, but I think I've got plenty of scope and room, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, to have a bit of a play with design for this area. So we won't do any of this yet. That'll be the next video. We've got this whole space to play with. But in the meantime, my homework will be to finish the concertina. It's now stitched in, so I've just got to do the side seams and the little tab. What will we do with the little tab? Might go rummaging. Maybe I can find some lace that could go over it. What have we got? Have we got time? Yeah, we got time. Here's some real old lace here. You know, just something to denote that there is a tab. It's finding something with the right width. Where's that piece of fabric that I tore off? Is there anything interesting on that? There's a lot of colour there. That'd be pretty. I could piece together if that was... Where's that little scrappy bit? Anyway, let's have a play. That went on there. Some scrappy bits, isn't it? And that went that side. That gets the pop of colour, uses the little morsels that come off of all of it. Just a little trim. So that lays there. Then we get this, which has been so damaged from goodness knows what. It's all clean, but there's like nearly rust stains on it. Wonder what your story is. So let's just move that over. We could even put a third piece scrap down, but we might not need it. No, we won't need it. So just layers of bits. Give it a pin. So I can stitch my tab and then I'll attach it. Actually go this way. So I'll fiddle with it more. Actually, I might end up putting a second piece of fabric through. It'll just give it a little bit more thickness too. No, then it's going to show through the lace and look funny. No, just do what you're going to do the first time, girl. Stop adjusting. This is where the hours goes, doesn't it? You start fiddling around with stuff and suddenly you pop out of your craft room and 2 hours has gone by. Pin it this way because that's one of those horrible pins. Go in the bin. I'm sick of picking you up. Oh, I should say goodbye and let you go because I'm just fiddling here. It's probably frustrating you to no end. All right. Just imagine this little morsel of lace laying over the top of those little morsels to create a decorative fabric cluster to use as a tab. See, what hope have we got of ever throwing out bits of scraps with this slow stitch business? So now that has got the little pop of colour and can go onto there. Love it. I can hear an aeroplane. There we go. So one little tab to grab to open the concertina. If that was attached, you probably wouldn't need it because you're using this to pull it open, where this now can be pulled open and rummaged through. All right, guys, I'll leave you alone. I've fiddled enough. When I come back in the next video, we will focus on this area here and put something here to hold the little scissors and all sorts. But I think we can really have a play because the thickness is good. We have pulled it off. By then, hopefully I'll have my fancy closure idea. Well, it's not even my idea. Rachel did it on a journal a year ago and it popped up as a video after watching one of her, her daily videos. And I'm like, oh, I remember doing that on a journal. That would be good. Then I went looking for the fastening object. I won't say anything yet. And it's up at Bloomin' Burrum in the other craft room. So I will have been there and come back by the time I film this next video. So that will go into position. Then it'll have a fastening technique and we're yet to play in here to make it a bit of a sewing caddy project bag pouch. Love it. Okay, guys, I better leave you alone. Oh, I bet I've gone way over the hour. Just looked up. Oh, goodness me. All right, guys, look after yourselves. Have a lovely week and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.